Dr. Sanjaya Mishra, representing Professor Asha Kanwar, President of the Commonwealth of Learning, Professor Tian Belawati, President of the International Council for Open and Distance Education, Professor Datuk Dr. Ho Sin Chai, Secretary General of the Asian Association of Open Universities, honored delegates, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for joining us at the opening ceremony of the Regional Symposium on Open Educational Resources, an Asian Perspective on Policy and Practices. This symposium is organized by Wawasan Open University together with District College and the International Development Research Center in collaboration with the International Council for Open and Distance Education, Commonwealth of Learning, Asian Association of Open Universities, and UNESCO. It gives me great pleasure to invite the stage party to come up on stage.
Sam, thank you very much. I guess the rain is stopping people from coming in on time. We thought we should start on time, regardless of the rain or the sun. It's not quite nice to start off with an apology, but I'm going to do that anyway because we are used to breaking traditions every now and then in this place. If you look at your program and if you see the heading Open Educational Resources, between us and the printer, the R dropped. Okay. And one could blame a lot of things, but I think we express an apology to all those who are passionate about resources. We are not attempting to change in this conference the spelling of that word. With that as an apology, let me start again. I suppose following protocol, I'd address those people who are sitting next to me. And my name is Raj Dhanarajan, Dr. Seratino, Director IDRC Singapore, Dr. Sanjaya Mishra, who's representing Professor Asha Kanwar, President Commonwealth of Learning, who will be joining us later this evening. Dr. Guang Kim, Director UNESCO Bangkok, Professor Tian Belawati, who's the President of ICDE and Rector, University Terbuka, Indonesia, and lastly, Professor Dr. Ho Sin Chai, who is the Secretary General of the Asian Association of Open Universities, and President Designate of the Wawasan Open University. Fellow travelers on the Open Educational Resources journey, colleagues and friends. On behalf of OER Asia, your host and the Wawasan Open University as well as District College, we welcome all of you to this our groundbreaking symposium on open educational resources and Asian perspective. To those who are not from our island, an equally warm welcome to our little place here in Malaysia. We, the organizing committee, want to wish you a very pleasant stay here, and at the same time also look forward to an enriching 2.5 days of dialogue and interaction on the subject of open educational resources. Right at the beginning, I want to acknowledge that the inspiration for us here at Wawasan Open University in Penang to go on the OER journey started about 2 years ago, and that inspiration came from the International Development Research Center of Canada through its Pandora network, structured and organized by IDRC Singapore office and led by their senior program officer, Ms. Maria Ng of the Communication Development Division. To Maria, who's here with us, and the IDRC, we at OER Asia owe a debt, and I wish to acknowledge that debt this morning by dedicating this symposium to IDRC. Maybe you want to acknowledge it. We were also encouraged in our OER effort by the global dialogue and movement steered by the UNESCO, the Commonwealth of Learning, and others such as the International Council for Distance Education and the Asian Association of Open Universities to seriously consider the value of shared content and collaborative efforts through open access, open education, open practice, open data, among others. A world that is generous and open to all to access its knowledge resources freely and without shackles cannot be a bad thing. But not participating in and contributing to this noble and valiant effort is. This university is gradually coming around to believing in the inherent nobility of open educational resources. And it is my firm belief that through its leadership of the Asian Association of Open Universities, which it presently chairs, it will help other open universities of the region in building an active marketplace for the free exchange of knowledge resources to reuse, remix, repurpose, and redistribute. Already, Asia is one of the biggest producers of digital learning materials, not just by and through its open universities, but also through its many high-standing conventional systems. From being producers, this region is potentially the biggest users of open educational resources if its institutions of learning begin to realize and accept the value of literally hundreds of thousands of freely available resources that currently populate the web. It is my hope that this symposium will be the start of many such initiatives that will enable us to exchange thoughts, experience, understanding, and praxis of open educational resources. This symposium would not have been possible but for the support of many, but most importantly, IDRC through its Pandora network for the seed funds to pay for the organization of the symposium, as well as to support the travel and participation of many in this audience. The Commonwealth of Learning, which has continuously been supportive of my university's effort to break new ground, and the moral support of UNESCO, ICD, and AAOU. Lastly, I also wish to put on record the help of both the Wawasan Open University and our partners District College that gave this organization a meaning to this meeting. It might interest many to note that it was in Penang that we had organized the first meeting, we called it a colloquium then, of the Asian distance educators in 1985 at the University Science Malaysia through its off-campus program where I was one of the staff. UNESCO Bangkok through its then Deputy Director for Asia, one Dr. A. Chiba, was a principal funder for that meeting, just like IDRC is for this one. In one way or another, that first gathering helped Asian educators to reconfirm their belief in the goodness of open education. That colloquium also led to the birth of the Asian Association of Open Universities in mid-1987 under the leadership of the Sukhothai Open University of Thailand and its peers in India, Japan, Indonesia, and Pakistan. That shows how old I am. It is my hope that in a similar way, this symposium will also witness the growth of open educational movement here on our continent. This meeting should be seen as a first small step, and who knows, this may lead to a formalization of open educational resources Asia as a flag bearer of openness in higher education in Asia. Colleagues, welcome again to this symposium on open educational resources in Asia. I wish you all a very enjoyable symposium, enriching symposium. Thank you for your participation and have a happy stay on our small fishing village.
Your Excellency, Sridato Emeritus Professor Gajaraji Dhanarajan, I think in short Raj is an easier way to call him. Distinguished colleague and friends, on behalf of the International Development Research Center, or IDRC, I am very proud to be here with you at this pioneering event for education. I feel very grateful to all of you for devoting attention to the promotion and application of open educational resources. Your efforts and those of many others like-minded institutions and individuals across the world is increasing attention for digital learning and expanding its sharing over the internet openly and for free. This movement toward an open knowledge society has far-reaching ramifications. It is not only open educational resources per se that are of value here, but even more the relevance for improving the quality of teaching and in turn the quality of human resources in Asia. The making of knowledge resources freely available to Asia's poor and excluded population offers them unprecedented educational options and can contribute to their socio-economic development and enhancement of their life and livelihoods. Many of the countries in the region are challenged to find financially affordable and pedagogically acceptable solutions in providing educational services. A foremost concern is access to education of rural population, especially those living in isolated upland and coastal areas. The gap in education between rural and urban areas is contributing to wider socioeconomic disparity and increasing social injustice. Weaker economies have difficulty facing increasing demand for post-secondary education and increasing cost of education. In resource-poor settings, it is challenging to maintain the quality of teachers and the content and instruction they deliver. Increasing the availability and use of open educational resources and associated open source software could help address educational quality and reach. However, there are still many problems that need to be resolved to ensure that an effective, efficient, and engaging learning experience, and this is a quote, an open and quality education to all, again another quote, as promised by the OER community is realized. Among others, technological infrastructure are still limited and inadequate. There is confusion among the public and the government about what OER actually is. Legal and policy frameworks are still insufficient, if not non-existent. The quality of the material produced is unchecked, and barriers are posed by unresolved copyright issue and the drive to privatization. It is challenging to maintain cultural and language diversity in a region as plural as Asia, and as one of the keynote speakers, Grace Alonso, also reminds us, there is a real risk for muting of Asian voices in the process, and a need for university to commit to social transformation if they really are to serve disadvantaged groups and countries, through the use of open educational resources. This and many other issues will be the focus today, and I look forward to learning from you all, since I am not really an expert in this area. The experts that I think we all need to thank is Maria Neng, former senior specialist, please Maria, stand up, former senior specialist at the DRC, was effort for over 30 years to promote ICT for development in Asia have led to many results, including this open education resource initiative that is being launched here today. So thank you, Maria. Thank you, Professor Raj. Thank you to all you today for spearheading this important discussion in Asia. Thank you.
Tansri Dato, Professor Dhanarajan, Dr. Rosalia, Director, International Development Research Center, Professor Tian Belawati, President, International Council for Open and Distance Education, Dr. Kim, Director, UNESCO, Bangkok, Professor Dato Ho, Secretary General of Asian Association of Open Universities, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. I bring to you the greetings of Professor Asha Kanwar, President and CEO of Commonwealth of Learning, who will be here tomorrow with us. I am honored to represent her at this inaugural session, and the Commonwealth of Learning is happy to be associated with this important symposium. The Wawasan Open University is one of the innovative centers of teaching and learning in the Commonwealth, and COL has accompanied it on its journey from the very outset. Even though many of you know the Commonwealth of Learning, but for those who don't, let me say a few words about what we do. COL is an intergovernmental organization that helps Commonwealth governments and institutions use various technologies to improve and expand education, training, and learning in support of development. Our slogan is Learning for Development, and we work in 54 member states that cover all regions of globe. Why COL is interested in promoting open educational resources? When COL was first established, its fundamental goal was that, I quote, any learner anywhere in the Commonwealth shall be able to study any distance teaching program available from any bona fide college or university in the Commonwealth, unquote. Its purpose was to assist the acquisition and delivery of teaching materials, and more generally facilitating access to them and commissioning and promoting the adaptation and development of teaching materials. This was visionary at the time, and it was beginning to bear fresh fruits as OER only now. COL has taken several concrete steps to promote the use of OER. In fact, COL was promoting the development of OER in the 90s with its stamp 2000 plus teacher training material well before the term OER was coined in 2002. This was led by our then President, Tansri Raj, who has always been a pioneer of OER and an advocate for research, reaching the last person in the queue. More recently, COL is one of the first intergovernmental agency to declare its commitment to OER through its development of an OER policy. COL, with support from the Hewlett Foundation, has facilitated the development of OER for secondary schools by teachers in 6 Commonwealth countries. 32 member states of the Commonwealth are actively engaged in developing OER under COL's Virtual University of the Small States of the Commonwealth initiative. This long engagement with OER gives COL a perspective about the inherent challenges and emerging opportunities. The OER movement is a people's movement, founded on principles that challenge the organizational values and pedagogical practices of many educational institutions that still represent closed systems. The principles of openness, sharing, and collaboration that characterize the OER movement are different from centralized and closed education models based on elitism and exclusion. The OER movement is an important milestone in democratizing education for the 21st century. We believe that although infrastructure and technology are important in relation to the capacity to develop and use OER, there is a need for a paradigm shift that explores the link between OER and institutional structures, institutional values, and the freedom of stakeholders such as teachers and students. The present symposium brings together some of the leading experts in this field. We hope that the deliberations will bring the momentum required to continue our collective work towards promoting more flexible and open regimes to collaborate, create and share educational resources. We are sure the symposium will bring together new ideas and experiences, and on behalf of the Commonwealth of Learning and on my behalf, I wish the symposium a great success. Thank you very much for your attention.
Tan Sri Dato Dhanarajan, or I called him Pak Raj, Dr. Rosalia, Dr. Sanjaya, Dr. Kim, and Professor Ho. Ladies and gentlemen, friends and colleagues, good morning. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'm delighted to participate in this symposium dedicated to OER in Asia. Maybe this is the first regional forum to take place after the UNESCO declaration on OER was approved in Paris 3 months ago. So I would like to thank once again Prof. Faraj for inviting me and ICDE to be part of this important event. And I think everyone here today very well understand and agree that it is too much at stake to let the opportunities offered by OER to pass by. And as we all aware of, OER can contribute to accelerate access to education, innovation in education, quality, as well as cost efficiency. And it can also accelerate the economy by contributing to access to affordable mass education, lowering cost and elevate the impact of education. OER can make a major contribution to competitiveness and economic development. Nevertheless, I think never forget that using OER also has a cost for the learner to use or maybe to contribute to OER, and a cost for the teacher, a cost for the school or university. To transform education using OER has cost for society, and that is why we have to take this OER very seriously. And if we do it right, however, enormous benefit can be harvested, and this defends the cost. Governments, of course, are the biggest suppliers of education, and government have the most to gain with regard to savings. And we should therefore expect more from government in supporting the OER movement. In the end, one of the day we all can be winners if we do it right. Universities have a core role in demonstrating the added value from OER through good praxis. Universities also have a core role in taking the conceptual responsibility for OER, so OER does not collapse to something for special interested people and enthusiasts. And even more, universities have a core role in ensuring the quality of OER and to share the high quality OER in interchange with public and private sector. Although universities also face the challenge to integrate OER into all parts of the so-called knowledge triangle: education, research, and innovation. Doing that would significantly contribute to increased effect of the investment made in knowledge. The added value of OER will not be gained through solitary actions. I think experience demonstrates it's the other way around. We can see eagerly signs of breakthrough for OER, such as the successful initiative of the African Virtual University, which mobilized universities and governments for open and distance learning based on OER. We also know now there is a movement for shaping the OER university, which probably will give us more benefits if we do it right once again. Then there are many more good examples, and we know from the first 10 years of the OER history that most of the work is in front of us. That means our strategies must be based on joint efforts and partnerships to have breakthrough and to harvest the added value of OER. Now, let me please talk a little bit about ICDE. What is ICDE? ICDE is the leading global membership organization for open and distance learning, and an NGO official partner of UNESCO, and shares that agency's key aim, the attainment of equality education for all. ICDE is member-focused. ICDE is an organization which will involve members in decision-making, in cooperative action, and in cooperative problem-solving and transparent. Members will be able to follow the activities and decisions of ICDE. ICDE believes that in pursuing education as a universal right, the needs of the learners must be central. Senior management in member institutions is actively involved in ICDE. On all levels, national, regional, and global, ICDE will encourage its members and as an association itself commit to participate in developing OER as a core part of the knowledge society. Partner with conventional universities to facilitate the uptake of open education. Develop ICDE global and regional conferences to be a driving force for OER. Participate in international OER projects as the Open Educational Quality Initiative or the OPA. Initiate and consider initiatives to developing OER for strategic areas and, for example, teaching the teachers on quality ODL. Support the implementation of the Paris Declaration. Work together with global, regional, and national stakeholders such as this forum. So ICDE will continue to develop partnerships with core stakeholders like UNESCO, COL, UNESCO chairs of OER, because UNESCO has 2 chairs on OER, the Open Consortium, OCWC, and various regional associations, including the Asian Association of Open Universities. And looking at the website for this symposium, I think it is illustrating what partnerships is all about. So lastly, I want to emphasize once again the sustainability is wonderful because it brings promises and hope for the future. Therefore, we should fight for sustainability to realize the potential carried by OER. And I think the requirements needed for achieving sustainable OER include a political framework provided by governments to take the Paris Declaration into practice. Governmental frameworks that should be developed in dialogue with the core stakeholders in private, public, and the university sector. The framework should work as an incentive for bottom-up initiatives and responsibilities by universities. The framework should adapt to different cultural needs. The stakeholders should develop platforms and standards for handling OERs on different levels. And last but certainly the most important, I think, is strong leadership. And I believe we have in this room the strong leaders who are committed to OER, the real drive, and believe that OER is the real driving factor for expanding accessible quality education for all. So thank you once again. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thanks, Emeritus Professor Dr. Gajraj Dhanarajan, the convener of this regional OER symposium. Dr. Rosalia Sioktino, Director, IDRC. Dr. Kwan Jo Kim, Director, UNESCO.